Welcome to the spectacular circuit of Spa, where it's time for a truly thrilling qualifying half hour. This historic circuit is never more challenging than with low fuel. It's also the longest lap of the season. Very difficult indeed to master, and that's just in the dry. Right now, for the first time ever in Formula 2's new era, it's time for a wet qualifying session. This really could be anyone's. It's qualifying for round 8 of the 2017 FIA Formula 2 Championship. I'm your commentator, Alex Jakes, and this really does promise to be an excellent 30 minutes. You can see cars beginning to peel to the end of the pit lane. We get a green light in just over a minute's time. You can see the conditions. Things have improved. I've got a weather app on my phone which has told me 4 different things the last 4 times I've looked at it, so I'm not going to believe their forecast. Can see from the monitor that we have a wet track, and we can see that from your pictures as well, but no one's entirely sure what it's going to do in the next half an hour. And with such a slow window, it's such a long lap here, it's the longest lap time of the year, and it really does provide the teams and drivers with a bit of a headache. Even though the track at the moment, there's no rain coming out there's no rain on the pit straight, and you can see the umbrellas have gone down, so that would suggest that you want to be over the line last in this half an hour. You don't know if the rain is going to come back, and according to the information that the teams have, there could still be rain within the next hour and a half. You can see there the issue of standing water. That is at leclerc after the Kemmel Straight that we're looking down right now. It is going to be so treacherous. So these early laps, remember, you still have to bring the wet tyres up to temperature. There are no tyre blankets even in these circumstances. The teams get 3 sets of the wet weather tyre for the weekend, and now we are green and ready to go for what promises to be an intriguing qualifying session. And it's a session that features a couple of new faces and a few driver changes. So on to the pits, out of the pits and onto the track come the cars. You can see the enormous rooster tails of spray immediately with the full wet on. There is no intermediate tyre available to the field, and I don't think they'd be using it anyway, given what we saw at the very end of Formula 1 free practice, and the conditions haven't changed that much, as you can see. And this is a bit more like it, isn't it? We've had 2 years of completely dry running at Spa. And
the only information we have about the weather, and it's very difficult here in Spa, is that when the session starts, more rain will come. But only a little bit, but it will continue for the whole session.
Looks like it will not rain anymore, so we can wait a bit like we did in free practice.
So 2 differing approaches being taken there. We heard Roberto Merri, who is one of the driver changes, being told that it's time to get out there and start setting laps, and Leclerc being told maybe it's time to hold back and run when it's less wet in the session as the track dries out. It is quite good. I mean, it is a problem around here with obviously the fact that they get so much wet weather, so the track does have drainage in mind. The pit straight in front of me has grooves cut in it to allow standing water to disperse, and there are drains through Pouhon Corner right here just to allow the same thing. You can see one on the right-hand side there, but differing strategies. Difficult to know who's right at this stage. I guess we're going to find out in terms of Merri, who is the one driver change. He is in for Sergio Canamassas. So we have 3 driver changes in total, but only 1 new face. At Rapax, Roberto Merri comes in for Canamassas, who stands down for personal reasons. His teammate is now Louis Delatraz, who has switched seats with 2017 F2 race winner Nick de Vries. And you can see Roberto Merri in a Rapax for the first time this season in Formula 2. So he will just run and run and run. Difficult for the teams to know what to do with fuel in this sort of situation. You want to give the driver plenty of opportunities to get the tyres up to temperature, but then you also want to give them a little bit of a leeway to try and set lap times, so maybe more fuel in the car than they would normally have. And we hope that Sergio Canamassas is back with us at the next round. Always seems to be providing entertainment or in the center of it. Sergio set a camera, is just waiting for some space there before he attempts his flying lap. Gustav Malia. It's not had the easiest of seasons, to put it mildly. His best effort so far this campaign is 11th, never in the top 10. This is the sort of day where he can change all of that. He was third last year for Rapax in this machinery back when the series was known as GP2. Can he get it slowed down at Les Combis? Interesting to see. There's a lot of standing water there, isn't there? You can see it's glacial pace around there. The last time that we ran a wet qualifying session with the GP2 11, the car that Formula 2 is using this year, there will be next year a new car, and we can see going wide using the different lines. The new car is due to be unveiled at the next race in Monza, so looking forward to seeing what they will be racing next year. But De Vries, who is continuing on, you see he was taking the wider line. Sometimes you want to take the go-kart line and go the long way around, avoiding the rubbered in corners that can be quite treacherous. De Vries and Malia, very similar crash helmets. So you've got to look to the T-bar, which for De Vries is black above his head. For Malia, it is yellow. And, well, slightly strange move for the McLaren driver. He's won a race with Rapax this year. He's had multiple podiums, but now finds himself with a team that has been struggling up till now.
A lot of rear instability.
So Gustav Malia, not particularly comfortable in these conditions. De Vries has raced this track many times in his junior Formula E career, and for the moment he finds himself in the final part of the racetrack, just about to set a time. The first time was a 2:17.5 that Rio Haryanto set, and it's going to be much slower than that as he comes across the line with a 2:25. But of course this track very, very wet. Jordan King 2 seconds behind, and the threat of rain continues, as will the cars on the racetrack. This really is a day where you get to see who is promising with the feel of the car and who isn't quite there in terms of the overall package. Nabil Jeffrey finding himself going wide, which is easy to do in the dry, and it's plain treacherous down there at Rivage on the highest points of the circuit. Sergio Sette Camara, another driver who has struggled in qualifying this year, is hoping to turn around a record. He's 5-2 down in his head-to-head battle with his teammate Jordan King, and hoping that today will work out. Now in the dry earlier, Antonio Fuoco was up in second position.
15 minutes, Stefan is coming. 15 minutes. Not more than 20.
So Boschong being given a time limit there. Ralph Boschong, who was 5th in practice, the man that we're following at the moment. Antonio Fuoco found himself up in second position. That is the best that he's managed for a while, and he's done that once before this season in Austria, and it's about, in totally different conditions, it has to be said, trying to carry that baseline speed forward, and he's done exactly that with third place at the moment. So a 10th between the fastest man around this racetrack, which is Luca Giotto, who is just ahead of his teammate Artem Markelov. Giotto trying to do what he did on a wet Spa back in 2014 and take pole position. But look at the difference there from Charles Leclerc, a 2:22, but it's a whole 2.4 seconds faster, and he has found the grip where no one else could at this stage of the session, and that is an unbelievable lap. Let's see what Ollie Rowland can do. We've got personal best being set by the man that you're looking at right now. Remember, second in the championship, and a long way to go in this session, of course. But we're going to see it's a personal best. Compare it to Leclerc's. He's lost 6/10 to Leclerc in the middle part of the lap. And that is where you really would be relying on the grip and feel in these conditions. So Rowland's got to gain it all back in the final part. De Vries has improved. The gap is now just a second. So that indicates that the track is improving all of the time. How much is it going to improve for Ollie Rowland? The Yorkshireman is at the final corner. You can see how slowly he's having to take it. Absolutely glacial pace compared to what we're used to. Now up through the gears, across the line, and Rowland, where does he manage to get it? Gets it up to second, a full second away from the ultimate pace of his championship rival. So we're on board with Nick de Vries, who has swapped the black wrap axe for the red and yellow, the distinctive Racing Engineering. Racing Engineering have a wonderful record with this car around this race circuit in the last 4 years. They have been on the podium at least one occasion, and you can see how easy he is having to take it at the moment. Wasn't a personal best in the first part of the lap, but that isn't to say that de Vries wasn't trying. Ollie Rowland has gone round once again and managed to set the fastest first sector of anyone so far. So he remains on the attack. And remember, we saw de Vries cut the gap to Leclerc. Now Latifi has cut the gap, and these times will just keep on tumbling. So Latifi now is in up to second place. Let's look at Nick de Vries. As you can see, he's desperately trying to stay away from those treacherous painted white lines. And de Vries a long way off the pace at this point. So those tyres perhaps not hanging on. Of course, it is a balancing act with the wet tyres that you use. There has been rain forecast for the rest of the weekend. So you've got to keep those tyres in good shape because you might need them later on in the weekend. You can't just burn through 3 sets and run all of the time. But at the moment, de Vries, with a very ordinary middle sector, will surely pit at the end of this. Meanwhile, Ollie Rowland, de Vries going once again. So he's had his slowdown lap, reset the tyres, and he will go.
The pushing is going green, so the track is just getting faster and faster.
So Giotto being told that the track is improving all of the time. No further rain on the pit straight, at least. It's looking pretty murky. This place looks very apocalyptic very quickly in the wet. But here comes Ollie Rowland then, who hasn't managed to improve in the middle part of the lap. It was a rapid first part, but he hasn't managed to improve in the tight and twisty technical middle part. And Ollie Rowland, though, gaining so much at the end in that final sector. Personal best for him in the first and second sectors. It's the middle part, sector 2, where Ollie Rowland is for the moment lacking, but they are all gaining all of the time. This was Nick de Vries a few moments ago, sending the spray back to where it came from and cranking it up for another lap. Difficult weekend for de Vries, who had built a strong relationship with the team. And we see Alexander Albon showing us the perils of going through Radillon corner at the top of Eau Rouge in these conditions. Just about keeping it together. Did he? Don't want to speak too soon. I think he did continue. Here's Roberto Merri, whose experience is paying off nicely at the moment. He's in the top 10, 9th as he crosses the line and improves up to 7th position. So just the one round for him in F2 machinery so far this year. But at the moment, it's going very nicely. Antonio Fuoco is the first man to get on terms with his teammates' earlier effort. It's a 2:22.3 that brings the time down even further and presents us with provisional pole. 2 teams have been on pole in 2017. We just saw Prema. They're one of them. And here's the other, Dams, but not with this man, Nicholas Latifi.
More rain coming in around 12 minutes.
Nicholas Latifi is trying to change that. We hear Robert Visoyu being given the information on the radio. And just looking out of the window, it doesn't seem to be changing, but there are dark, dark clouds overhead at the top of the hill. You can see from the pit straight all the way up to Ravage corner, and it's much darker up there than it is down here for the moment. Latifi running wide, just about manages to gather it all together. He set a personal best in the first part of the lap, and he's going to send it to the very edge. Careful on the curbs there, Nicholas. Very easy to drop a wheel and find yourself spinning in the wrong direction, but the Canadian driver has managed to avoid that. He has placed in the top 10 on the last 6 occasions that he has qualified that car. He is on a hot streak in a hot season for the Canadian driver, and he will be buzzing, having tasted contemporary Formula One machinery in the in-season test for Renault, which he did after the round where he nearly took victory in the feature race. Now, corners that in the dry are very simple, but you've got to stay alert for them in the wet conditions. As he goes through Blanchimont, the fastest corner on the racetrack, maybe a little hesitation. There is the slightly darker view overhead up to Rivage that I was speaking about earlier on. For the moment, down the gears for the final time on this lap, and then Latifi will go back up.
Do you feel it's going to dry at all? No, it's not going to dry.
So Latifi over the line to set the fastest time. As King says on the radio, he doesn't think it's going to dry out on board with Charles Leclerc, who has set the fastest middle sector of anyone so far in the middle part of the lap. And it's this final part where his rivals have been gaining on him. He's giving it absolutely everything he's got. Flat through there in the wet, in a Formula 2 car. Amazing grip as he avoids the normal racing line. Goes to the inside, avoids the rubbered-in part of the racetrack. Not the line that he takes this time, though, to the apex, and then lights up the rears. Goes to lower the bar further. Does he manage to do it? Yes, he does, by 9/10 of a second. Leclerc in another postcode to anyone at the moment, but that could easily change. He has nearly a second between him and Latifi, and this is what I was saying with the fuel. They were fueled longer so they could stay out there where they could take the benefit, and Ollie Rowland is trading sector times with his championship rival. It's the middle part of the racetrack where Leclerc is so impressive. Rowland.
What do you think of the track? It's just getting better and better. I mean, it's getting drier and drier.
So Latifi explaining that it's just getting drier and drier there, and he will be, well, will anyone gamble? It doesn't quite, well, it looks very wet out there still. Looks far too wet for anyone to go out there and get temperature in the tyres, let alone get those slick tyres to work. Let's focus on the lap from Ollie Rowland. Fastest of anyone through the first sector. Rowland, who has an excellent record against his teammate in head-to-head qualifying, now displaces his teammate. He's up to second position. Latifi down to third, and he looks to maintain that 6-1 head-to-head qualifying record that he has over his Canadian teammate. Antonio Fuoco is attacking out their personal best for him in the first part of the lap. Indeed, almost everyone on the racetrack, with half of this session gone already. Not the usual couple of push laps and then back to the pits. He was really giving it everything out of the exit of Stavelot there. Fuoco determined to turn his season around in the latter stages. Remember, he's yet to win his race. His teammate has triumphed in 5 of them. Final few corners to go. Heaviest braking point, difficult in the dry, treacherous in the wet. Fuoco taking no chances, bringing it basically to a crawl. Taking the same line as his teammate did, slightly away from the apex of the corner. And he comes over the line with the Arden pitting in the background. Antonio Fuoco, he goes up to 4th position with improvements in the first and second sector, but the difference is all being made by Charles Leclerc in the middle part of the lap. That is the story of qualifying at the moment, and here is Leclerc, who has just set the fastest sector in the final lap to improve by a 10th as well. So it's the middle sector and now the final sector in which Charles Leclerc is able to improve. And, well, a little bit of head scratching. Remember, Leclerc, earlier on, if you weren't with us for practice, didn't take part in practice for the majority of the session because he was struggling with the fire extinguisher that had to be replaced. It went off through Eau Rouge, which must have been a pretty alarming moment for him. And then he brought it back. Oh, wonderful picture of Gustave Mallier there. But Leclerc did not take part in practice. He's gone out there with very few laps, 6 laps under his belt, and he is absolutely tearing up.
I need to push every lap now because the tires are not coming with temperature. And the car is really bad, huh? Really, really bad.
So he's pushing to the limit is Charles Leclerc, a man who can't at the moment, with someone who was very happy indeed in the dry. That was Ralph Boschung. But for the moment, not able to get the car into the temperature window, and it Seems almost counterintuitive that you need tyre temperature in conditions when it is so cold and wet and windy out there, but that's exactly what you need. Gustav Malia, he's really been trying on this lap, pushing to the limit, and it's good enough for 4th position for the man that qualified 3rd here last year. He's got a new teammate, and that usually gives the driver a hurry up. Here's Luca Giotto, who knows the fastest way around here in wet conditions, but he is bailed back to the pits. The man that currently occupies 7th position, and we have 11 minutes to go. The tyres getting away from the drivers. Interesting piece of information that they've only been out there, the majority of them, for 6 or 7 laps, and they're already complaining about tyre wear and tyre temperature. So something to store away and remember if we have a wet race tomorrow. There's Nabil Jeffrey, who was out-qualified in the one head-to-head he's had with his teammate Santino Ferrucci last time out, and finds himself down in 20th. So this was Artem Markelov with a big moment of oversteer. Look at that from Markelov, hanging on for, well, all he's worth at the top of the hill as he made his way through to the Kemmel Straight, Eau Rouge. And, well, Markelov was very committed one race ago back in Budapest, and it cost him, but he's lost none of that commitment, and we wouldn't want to see that change. Alexander Albon, for the moment, one of the few drivers setting a competitive time out there on the racetrack. You can see how dark it is out there. GP3 still have to run their qualifying session after this. For the moment, though, Formula 2 taking center stage, and Albon, he might seem a long way off, but if he can maintain that pace, he would get himself up to 6th position and displace his former teammate from last year, Nick de Vries. So it's a 1:28 for Charles Leclerc.
Okay, Oliver, it looks like there is more rain coming. We try to do a quick tire change and go again.
Okay, but I have no rear grip, mate. No rear grip at all. The rear just won't work.
So Ollie Rowland having trouble switching on the wet tyre, and that really is going to hurt you through the part of the racetrack where his championship rival Leclerc has an enormous advantage on him. It's a 65.7 in the middle part of the lap for Leclerc, and Rowland is posting a 66.6. So that is how much time Rowland is losing with no grip in the rears. Alexander Albon abandoned that lap, and they have come to reset. He could have gone over the line, and I think massively improved where he is at the moment, as could Luca Giotto, who also chose to pit in. But with the track drying out all the time, it's just a case. You see Roberto Merri there, very, very impressive, up in 8th position, using all of his experience. The 26-year-old who is debuting for fellow Spaniard Sergio Canamassas. Sean Galeo is out there. Of course, the balance is now, how long do you run in the gap without any other cars in front of you? Oh, Louis Delatraz came very close indeed to losing the back end of his Rapax on this. His debut with the team, and he's running off the road and just about hanging together a lap. But are we getting more rain at the top of the hill where the dark rain clouds appear to be? If so, it would look good for Leclerc and Rowland. Latifi, Malia, proving once again that he absolutely adores this racetrack and finds another gear around here. Race control, gonna have a look at Norman Nato impeding Antonio Fuoco. That'll be interesting to see if they take action. It's not like speeding in the pit lane when you see that investigated and you know it's definitely going to be a penalty. That can go either way, and Delatraz is hanging on to the rear of his car, seemingly through every corner. Once again there, just can't get the power down. Delatraz, who at the moment finds himself down in 17th position with just Galeo, King and Jeffrey behind. King's torrid time in the MP Motorsport car continuing from earlier on. We saw him low down the order in 18th this morning, and he has stayed there for the moment. Very uncharacteristic for a driver that has been on the podium around here. So Delatraz going once again, tight to the curb. Interesting to contrast styles as they go over there. But it's looking pretty dry on the pit straight for the moment. No spray at all. Here's some as they go under braking. So this was Delatraz lighting up the rear of his car as he went through Malmedy corner, putting a wheel on the curb. And when you do that, you really do risk your qualifying time. You can see how much it is raining at the top of the hill.
Ready out of the end now.
And that is confirmed by Antonio Fuoco, what we're seeing on the pictures. So are we going to get a late flurry of laps, or is it going to be impossible for anyone to improve? Because it seems to be very wet indeed. Seems fine at this point, doesn't it? But this track is so long, 7 kilometers, 4.3 miles, that it can be raining in one part and dry in another. And that seems to be what we've got at the moment. Is Ollie Rowland going to attack, or is he going to bring it back to the pits? Some exemplary driving from all of those in the field so far to deal with these ever-changing conditions. We heard Boschong's engineer on the radio saying the rain will come again, definitely within 20 minutes. Well, we've got to that sort of window. Ollie Rowland, though, it's not going to bring it back to the pits. He's going to go one more time across the line.
Nobody really getting all their sectors together, so just a case of doing the best you can in each sector.
So Mary receiving encouragement as Ollie Rowland tackles a fearsome corner in the dry. Let's see how he takes it in the wet. That is an awful lot of commitment. Ollie Rowland struggling to hang on to the car, and he somehow does. That was spectacular stuff through Eau Rouge and onto Radion. Now on the Kemmel Straight, he's building up to the top speed on this circuit, 315 kilometers an hour, 195 miles an hour. Slightly slower, of course, in the wet, but he's marginally up on Leclerc's best through the first sector. And you can see De Vries as well, battling it, and you can, oh, it's so easy to get on the curb and send the car round, but Ollie Rowland is dancing through the rain at the moment. But can he slow it down into Rivage? No, he's using the extra tarmac runoff. That won't cost him that much time, but you can see how difficult this part of the racetrack is in the conditions that we've got at the moment. But still, he's soaring away at the steering wheel and giving it everything. This is a corner you really need all the grip in the world for. Pouon, as you see him just throw the steering wheel there and attempt to go forward. And now from this point on, the rain isn't as heavy as we've seen at the top of the hill, but it seems to be, well, it seems to be coming down pretty heavily now. Great to watch on board there with Ollie Rowland. Here's his teammate, Nicholas Latifi, looking to out-qualify Ollie Rowland for only the second time. You can see how much the rear of the car was lighting it up. And Latifi improves up to second place and displaces Ollie Rowland for the moment. Yellow flags are out there on the racetrack in sector 9, so that's the middle part of the racetrack. And we're on board with Nick De Vries. Artem Markelov has set the fastest first sector of anyone. And we have a red flag right at the end of the session. So, and that is why. And so Sergio Sette Camara has gone the wrong way. It was treacherous in this part of the racetrack. And finally, didn't want to say it out loud, I was extremely impressed that no one had spun it. But Camara, unfortunately, has done just this.
I spun and I touched the wall.
It's the unnamed turn number 9 as they go from Rivage corner down to Pouon. It's a tough one. In the dry, there's a lot of AstroTurf to try and take advantage of, but not so in the wet. And I think the game is over. He's been given the all clear by the marshals. And it was surely going to be impossible. Artem Markelov will wonder what could have been. He had set the fastest first sector of anyone when the red flag was thrown. He's had that a couple of times, notably in Bahrain when he was trying to improve, but there was a crash between Racing Engineering and a Trident that removed his chance of improving. So we're looking at Leclerc taking a very wide line there, and there is the end of Sergio Sette Camara's accident. So on board with Charles Leclerc, heading into turn number 9, taking the wide go-karting racing line and coming across the spin that almost certainly will ensure that it's another pole position. But Sergio Sette Camara, for the moment, has managed to get himself into a position that he's not been in since the very start of the season. If we don't resume, he has bagged a joint personal best of the season with 10th position. So everyone back to the pits apart from Camara. Decision for race control to make about whether they restart it. Remember, the times that they're running in the wet, it would be a massive ask to warm up the tyres, to wind up for the lap, and then see if anyone could get near. But it appears to be okay for the moment on the pit straight. Interesting to see whether it's continuing to rain as hard as it was when we're on board with Ollie Rowland at the top of the track, 100 metres up into the hills from where we are right here on the pit straight. But Leclerc, from the very moment that he started that session, complete confidence in the car, and in the middle part of the circuit, that is turns 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, taking in Les Combes, Malmedy, Rivage, Pouhon, and then through the Fagnes chicane and the first part of Stavelot. That is where the confidence has made the difference. That is where he's had the time advantage. And with that confidence earlier on, he was able to then extend to taking the fastest time in the final sector of the racetrack as well. So the MP Motorsport car being recovered by the marshals, not the way that Camara wanted to end his afternoon, but there's the silver lining of a matching of his best qualifying session of the season, which for the moment would see him take the head-to-head battle between him and Jordan King to 5-3 with 8 qualifying sessions completed. Antonio Fuoco, who for the moment will be out-qualified once again, it appears, by his teammate, but we may well restart the session. There may well be time to get a little bit of heat into those tyres and someone to do the impossible. But it's a massive ask with such little time on the clock. Fuoco, I think, will be happy with that top 5. Here's someone who definitely will not be happy. Jordan King was unamused after the safety car antics that restarted the race in Budapest in the feature, and he finds himself down in 17th. A reminder that in the dry, it was even worse, 18th for Jordan King.
It's 3 minutes 43, so there's 3 minutes 43 to get around. It doesn't take that long, so it just depends how much people are about. As long as we just get on it, we'll be fine.
So get on it is the instruction, at least the instruction that I can relay to you, but you've still got to build the tyre temperature. You've still got to get yourself a little part of the racetrack, and that is a very, very big ask. That's a tough task for all of them. Maybe someone can. There is a large amount of time to be gained, a large chunk of time to be gained, and this it'll be interesting. Blue flag there, and well, did Luca Ghiotto know Charles Leclerc was there? Because he was weaving from side to side all over the road, and you could clearly see the blue flags being waved for him. So I wonder if that's something that we're going to see investigated later on. This session will restart in about a minute's time, and I think Ghiotto might be in a bit of trouble there for certainly weaving in front of a competitor whilst being shown the blue flag. He will argue, how on earth am I meant to see a blue flag with the spray that intense? Leading the queue, newly of Rapax, Louis Delatraz. Delatraz, whose qualifying has not been the best this year, yet to break in to the top 10, but in the 7 races that he was the teammate for Gustav Mallier, he did out-qualify him 4-3 in their head-to-head. Delatraz will have to improve, but not by much. He's in 12th at the moment. Will Charles Leclerc go out at the very end like he did in practice? Will he get involved, or will he join the queue right now and attempt to defend his pole position. Track temperature is still 23 degrees, so it's not Arctic Spa, which we sometimes get. And there are many in the covered grandstands, at least, already and prepared.
Ensure that you work a lot your brakes on the outlet. Ensure you work them like hell.
So Visa, you getting some encouragement as well. You can see the keenness that Ollie Rowland has, wants to get on with it, wants to try and get his teammate off the front row. Nicholas Latifi has not managed that in Formula 2 before. Latifi's personal best for the new Formula 2 era was set earlier in the season in Azerbaijan, and it was 3rd place. Check in with the weather, and you can see more is the graphic there. And so back on board with Nick de Vries, newly of Racing Engineering. He was on a flying lap that looked pretty handy before the red flag was flown. And this is not a time to mess around. This is not a time to get in each other's way and wind each other up. It's a time to get out there, get some heat into the tyres, and try and improve your lap time. Something that King will be desperate to do, something that Albon and Matsushita will be desperate to do. So there's Ollie Rowland building up the pace, and look at that, a massive, oh, it was so close. Initially, it was super close between the Racing Engineering and the Rapax, and then somehow Ollie Rowland managed to skate around the outside of what could have been an enormous red flag accident that would have ended the session, but didn't seem fazed by it one little bit, did he? But those were enormous closing speeds after a little bit of squeezing was going on. Squeezing for, at the moment, track position. So the sun has come out, and that is going to make conditions even worse, as daft as it sounds, because it's going to illuminate the spray in front.
It's raining again on the pit straight. It's raining again on the pit straight, sadly.
Nick de Vries is not wrong. It has just started pouring once again on the pit straight out of the window. You can see it's wet everywhere. I thought that Ollie Rowland was going to cream into the side of his teammate there, and he just managed to avoid it. You can see what they're dealing with in terms of visibility. Remember, it is always better from the camera point of view than what the driver can see. And look, the driver can see hardly anything. Ollie Rowland having to back out of it there purely because he couldn't see anything. Wow, they really are brave and committed and extremely talented out there as we head to the final stages of this qualifying session.
You are, because everybody is packed. Everybody is packed.
So it's going to be a case of try and leave a gap for Ollie Rowland. He has done, and first task is the 180 corner of La Source, the famous hairpin that they've been using since 1921, and now it's part of the most famous section of corners in motorsport, Eau Rouge, and then on to the top of the hill through Radion. How much commitment can Ollie Rowland take? He's really giving it everything there, pushing to the white lines and the curbs, really wringing every last inch of speed from the car. The spray incredibly high. I'd be amazed if he can improve at this time, but he has improved at this time by 0.3 of a second. That is not the best that he has managed so far, though. And look how hard it's raining in the middle part of the lap. There's surely no way that anyone's going to be able to improve through the section that matters. And Ollie Rowland, with a big kick of oversteer, is going wide and into the gravel. Maximum attack, gave it everything. Oh, he's been flicked back into the gravel. I think he might just recover from there. I think he caught the car on the lip of the tarmac. This was on board with Ollie Rowland. You can see there's not a lot to work with in terms of visibility and maximum commitment. The grip, though, was not there. Lucky to keep it out of the barriers, but you were not going to stop that man from trying. And he has just about, I think, recovered out of there. But with the rain coming down, there will be no improvement. No personal best being set on the computer screen in front of me. Jordan King had set a personal best. Leclerc had. Ollie Rowland had improved on Leclerc's time. But with the track the way it is, you can see Latifi still trying to improve. That is going to lock in the order that we saw set in the first 20 minutes of this session. and they will all come round. I don't think there will be any late surprises. Sometimes this track can deliver, but it was a 2-minute 17 lap the last time he ran in the wet in torrid conditions out there today. It's going to be a 2-minute 20 for Charles Leclerc that secures 4 points and pole position, although some personal best being set in the final part of the lap. Latifi, is he going to be able to improve? Not quite. Cuts the beam, and Nicholas Latifi thought he was closer to the finish line than he was. He will start a feature race in Formula 2 for the first time from the front row. Excellent for him and Dams, who continue their superb season. He out-qualifies his teammate Ollie Rowland for only the second time this year. And we follow the man who has secured the 4 points for pole. Once again, it's Charles Leclerc from Monaco, driving with the prancing horse and checking his mirrors because he knows his afternoon work is done. The man heavily linked with a drive for Sauber in Formula 1 next year, delivering once again. He'll go over the line one more time. In fact, Leclerc had set a personal best in the first sector, and pretty ordinary, not able to improve, but he finished it all the same. And then he will peel in to the old pits that now function as the support pits. And that was absolutely wonderful entertainment for half an hour. Doesn't matter what you throw at Charles Leclerc. Even if you go wide and have to run off the road at the top of the hill in Les Combes as you head into Malmedy. Doesn't matter if the fire extinguisher goes off. Does not matter if the heavens open. Charles Leclerc went over one lap, seemingly, if the car fits the rule book, is absolutely unstoppable. And he's proven it once again in the phenomenally entertaining Spa-Francorchamps circuit. Here's Ollie Rowland on the second row. He'll be disappointed to be out-qualified, but you can't say that he didn't give it everything at the end there. The only other man who has been on pole position in 2017, today having to settle for third. That is going to make a start that is always crucial here even more important. But let's confirm the order in very, very difficult conditions after half an hour of qualifying. It's Charles Leclerc who takes the 4 points for pole. Nicholas Latifi will start a Formula 2 race from the front row for the very first time. Ollie Rowland in third, gave it absolutely everything, but found himself off the road. Gustav Mallier, third last year, fourth this year. He just loves this circuit. Antonio Fuoco just behind his teammate in fifth. Nick de Vries sixth on his first outing for Racing Engineering. Luca Ghiotto might be investigated for blocking Leclerc for the moment, has seventh, and Roberto Merri, the super sub, lines up in eighth for tomorrow. Artem Markelov is ninth. Alexander Albon is in 10th position. In 11th, just outside the top 10, so he doesn't equal his personal best, Sergio Sette Camara improves. So someone did improve in that final run, which is remarkable. Santino Ferrucci in 12th, then came Louis Delatraz for his first outing with Rapax, then Ralph Boschong, Nobuharu Matsushita, Jordan King, Robert Visoyu, Norman Nato is 18th. That's really disappointing for him. Just ahead of teammate Sean Galeo, Nabil Jeffrey was 20th and last. So, we've got
Sky Sports F1. Feel it all.